Oh, it's me. Sorry, everybody. It's my turn to welcome you all to Soul and Story. Welcome. If you are looking for a place that is about writers of faith and writing along with faith, you are in the right place. I'm Sara R. Turnquist, clean/Christian historical romance author. And despite me tripping up as you were coming in, we are glad you're here.
We certainly are. I am Cindy Smith. I am an aspiring author. I am currently self-editing my first manuscript and hope to have it published in the first quarter of 2026. But today we are excited to bring to you the topic, the importance of resilience in your writing life. There are so many things that can distract us from our writing. There are so many things that can come into our life that interfere with our ability or the time for us to write. So you may have noticed in December that we had a guest, and we want to start having a guest once a month to help us talk about our faith and the writing journey. And so today we have another guest, but Sara, could you introduce her for us?
I sure will. It is my pleasure to have my sweet friend and my craft partner, Kelly Hallman, on. And I'm going to go ahead. Well, I brought her on stage just like that. But Kelly and I have been craft partners since before the pandemic, and we meet pretty much weekly. And we're on completely separate sides of the United States, but we are one in heart and mind, both in our desire after the Lord and after living a godly life, and also in our love of writing. So, Kelly, welcome and tell us a little about yourself.
Thank you, Sara. It's so nice to be here. I live in Central California, as you said, pretty much across the country from you, with my husband and the youngest two of our 9 kids. We have grown kids and grandkids who are truly the joy of my life. And I'm also a writer of historical fiction, both middle grade adventure and Christian historical romance. Writing has pretty much been a lifelong calling for me. And in the last few years, I've really begun pursuing it with intention. My first book, a middle grade historical novel in verse, was published in summer of 24. And I'm currently working on 2 series and learning to build a writing life that fits inside the reality of my health, my family, and the season I'm in.
Kelly, I'm so excited that you're with us today, and I have been looking forward to meeting you because I've heard all kinds of really great things from Sara. So I feel like I already know you, but your story and what she has shared has really touched my heart. And so I was wondering how you have seen resilience play out in your life and in your writing.
Well, I'm going to jump in real quick and just say that I'm always super impressed, Kelly, whenever I hear you remind us or remind me, not in a bragging kind of way, but you're just like, I have 9 kids and I homeschooled them all. That is just like hashtag mom goals, right? So I love this amazing legacy that you have for your family and your kids and the way that you are really walking that out. And that you've turned your attention to writing now that you have most of the kids launched. So again, like Kelly, like Cindy said, in light of where you are today, what does resilience mean to you from a faith perspective? And how does that play out?
A great question. For me, resilience isn't about being strong all the time. It's about returning. It's about returning to God, returning to the calling that He put in my heart, even when I feel discouraged or behind. There have been long stretches where writing felt impossible because of health issues, family responsibilities, or my own self-doubt. But my faith reminds me that God isn't in a hurry with me. Deuteronomy 31:8 is one of my favorite verses, and it says He goes before us and He will not leave us. So for me, resilience looks like trust in God, trusting that I'm not too late, I'm not disqualified, and the story He gave me is still mine to tell.
Yeah. So I know that you have a chronic condition that keeps you from writing or sometimes doing much of anything. And I can be so bad about not giving myself grace when progress gets impeded. So, how are you able to be gentle with yourself in the midst of all of that?
So it's so funny that you're being hard on yourself, because you are such an encouragement to me in this regard, because you are so gentle and encouraging with me. And I've learned so much from you in this regard too. But it's, for me, it's celebrating tiny steps. When life is heavy, the wins have to be small, and small wins add up. I've
Mm,
learned to let go of the idea that I'm behind. There is no behind. There's only the life I actually have and the stories I'm called to tell within it. I've
mm,
stopped expecting myself to be consistent in a perfect way. Instead, resilience for me again is returning to that page, returning to honor my creative self, and returning to God's voice over my own perfectionism.
I
that is
love
so
that.
good. Yeah, I think it's so great. I think it's so true that sometimes it's about opening the document, writing a sentence, and sometimes it's about not. And
Mhm.
I love that. I love that word, Kelly. Sorry,
Yeah.
Cindy.
Oh no, that's okay. I love the picture of returning. Um,
Mm,
not just giving up, because I struggle with perfectionism, and I find myself, well, I didn't write today, so what's the point? or or I keep telling myself, I'll start tomorrow. I'll start tomorrow, and just being who I am and allowing myself to have a low mood day, and then know that there will be a tomorrow. So I love that. I love that. Do you have certain practices that help you, or habits that help you when you're having really difficult
Mm,
days?
yes, definitely. On hard days, everything has to become smaller. I used to think motivation meant big word counts or perfect routines, but I've learned that resilience is built through tiny steps. Sometimes that's 10 minutes in my writing nook, or one paragraph, or even one sentence, like Sarah was saying earlier. Sometimes it's just reading and connecting with where I left off, or it can be journaling about my story and my characters. I find it very important to stay connected to the why behind my
Mm.
stories. That writing is part of how God and I talk. And when I see it as fellowship instead of performance, it's easier to show up.
Mm. I love
oh
that.
my goodness. Yeah, we're going to talk over each other
Yeah.
completely because this is so good, Kelly. It's so true that we often neglect the reality that our writing journey is fellowship. I love that you said that because I've never heard it put that way. But it makes perfect sense because I'm not, I mean, there's nothing I can or cannot do that affects the way God loves me or approves of me. And I struggle with that perfectionist loop too in that way. But that, that just that awareness when you're sitting to write that it is fellowship, it is an opportunity to sit with him and to sit under his wisdom, let it come through us in that way.
Mm.
That's so amazing. I just love that.
Privilege, really a privilege.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I like that it makes it easier to show up because there's no judgment on you. There's no judgment on Sarah or myself. If we're having a
Mhm.
bad day, and the Lord's like, just rest, which is my next question, because sometimes we need to rest because
Mm.
we are constantly going. We're constantly, oh, like Sarah said, you're a mom of 9. I had 2, and I thought there were days I was going to pull my hair out. But, there are just days we need rest. We need rest on a physical level and emotional levels and a spiritual level. So, how do you find, or what role do you find rest playing in your resilience?
It's very essential for me. It's not optional. I've learned for me that burnout doesn't come from working too hard. It comes from working without breathing. And so
Mm.
rest helps me reset my creativity, my nervous system. Sometimes rest means stepping away from the page. Other times it's switching to something that fills me. I love to read and knit, and we travel in our RV or just sit, disconnect from everything with a cup of tea. Rest isn't the opposite of resilience. It's what makes resilience possible.
Mm.
It's such a strange word in our hustle culture that we I think it's the American culture. Not that I'm saying that it's all bad, but productivity is not a negative thing, but we take it to a negative place in our lives. And I think we also, as Christians, unfortunately, I think we downplay the physiology of it all, that what you're saying is true. When we rest, not only are we resetting our, our psychological self, but our physical nervous system as well. It needs that break, and it needs us to just stop and take 3 deep breaths. And sometimes that's what it needs, but sometimes it needs a total disconnect, like you're saying. I think that is so very true.
Absolutely. And you homeschool your kids. I homeschooled mine. Sarah is homeschooling hers. And it's probably hard to find time to write. I'm involved in a ministry at my church. And there's just so many, and then I'm helping Sarah organize the Kentucky Christian Writers Conference. So sometimes important things that we have to take care of in our daily lives can interfere with our writing. So how do you balance your writing goals with your daily responsibilities?
Yeah, that's another great question. So honestly, I don't look at it as balance anymore. I think of myself being in seasons. So there are seasons where I can give more time to the writing, and then there's seasons where my family or my health is demanding more from me. Instead of fighting that, I'm learning to work with the season that I'm in to set gentle, realistic goals, things I can meet even when life is overwhelming. And then I celebrate returning to the work again, even if the progress feels slow, because slow progress is still progress. That's Sarah and I say that all the time. Progress is progress. So I remind myself too that writing is a long game. And most importantly, God is shaping me as much as he's shaping the story.
That is so true. I've often heard marriage described as holy sandpaper. I've heard kids described as that. And I've never really looked at the writing life as a bit of sandpaper as well, but it is. God is shaping us with everything in our lives. Nothing is excluded from him sanctifying us and making us more Christ-like. Absolutely. But I wanted us to kind of shift gears a little bit and talk a little more about your writing and the publishing that you have, the books that you have written and published. And so you mentioned the middle grade, the more children focused work. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that was actually my first published book, published with a traditional publisher in July of 2024. It's called This Opening Sky, and it's a middle grade historical post-Civil War novel in verse for 10 to 14-year-olds. And it follows the journey of a former slave and a former plantation owner's daughter as they travel north together to find family they have been separated from. And it was co-written with author Charlotte Watson Sherman.
Wow. That's really cool.
Yeah. And Cindy, I don't know if you've had the opportunity to read it. We have the privilege of reading each other's work as it gets done. And I had the opportunity to read This Opening Sky. And even though I'm not in that 10 to 14-year-old range, it was still a very moving piece. And to be able to step into the experience of people that you just imagine existed. I don't know anybody that was a plantation owner's daughter. I don't know anybody that was formerly in an enslaved situation, but it allowed me to, in the best way that we can, step into somebody else's shoes for, a few minutes, if nothing else, and see life through someone else's eyes. And I thought you did a really good job of capturing that emotion and conveying it. And with your co-author, of course, just bringing these two characters to life and making them feel real. And so I really appreciate that work that you did. But you have also done some extensive work to plan your clean / Christian historical romance series that I am totally in love with. And I wait eagerly for more chapters as you're able to get them out. But I do remember you mentioned, and you mentioned earlier in the podcast, that God is nudging you into something a little bit new, a little bit different. What do you say?
Children's literature is still on my heart too. And so I'm developing a new middle grade historical adventure series. The first book, The Cipher of Alexandria, tells the story of a 12-year-old math prodigy who travels to Oxford after her parents' death. And she finds herself solving an ancient cipher that draws her and her uncle into a high-stakes race against Nazi-funded scholars. So a little bit of Indiana Jones meets Enola Holmes with some STEM emphasis.
Oh, wow. I haven't actually had the chance to chat with you. So this is the first time hearing of the development of this new adventure that you're on with this story. I love it already. I love this idea of Indiana Jones meets Enola Holmes. I'm in. I'm in. Take my money.
Yeah, I love Enola Holmes. I mean, just the funness of those stories about her, and and Indiana Jones. I mean, I grew up, watching his movies, so I think that's exciting. And I'm also someone who loves to I love to instill reading in younger generations. So now I have even more books to recommend to people. I want to read the opening Sky, and then I'm definitely going to share it with others.
Yeah, excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Kelly, and sharing more about your writing life and also the challenges that you've encountered along the way and the way that God is working in and through and around you to affect others' lives, whether it's someone that's reading your books or the friend at church that is watching you or your craft partner who is watching and learning and hearing from God as a result of your choices to follow him and his leading.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I'd just like to say thank you to both of you for having me. It means a lot to be able to share honestly about this part of writing life that's a struggle. I think often we don't talk about that part, just the fun stuff. And so if any of your listeners feel discouraged or slow in their journey, I just want them to know that your pace does not disqualify you. God uses every season, and your story is still unfolding.
Oh, I love that.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Thank you. And I agree with you that it's just not something we want to talk about because we feel when we struggle with chronic illness or when we struggle with things like depression or those two things intertwined, we feel so alone and we feel so misunderstood. And the truth is that is a trick that Satan is taking advantage of that situation and trying to isolate us. And so I think the more we're open about our struggles, physical, emotional, mental, the more we can fight any lies that are coming our way with the truth. Truth from each other and truth from, God speaking into us in our honesty.
Yeah. And I think that's why community is so important, because one of my favorite scriptures is to comfort others with that which you've been comforted. So there are times when we need someone to come alongside us and say, hey, I may not have struggled exactly the way you have, but this is my struggle and this is how God has helped me get through it. And that can encourage someone to keep giving, keep trying, keep getting up, keep coming back to. And you don't know who's going to hear what you have to say and how it's going to touch them. So I'm just so thankful that you shared with us today. And one of the things that I kept hearing, or I heard you say a couple times, was the importance of rest. Sarah's always talking about coming from a place of rest, not thinking we have to work in order to rest. And that's something that the Lord has been really laying on my heart recently, is that I need to be working from a place of rest. And there are times when it's okay to just not have, as my daughter likes to say, I'll be out of spoons, to just not have the spoons for it. And that's okay. But then to return to it. And so you've just been a big encouragement. So I want to thank you for being a part of our conversation today. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome. And I hope that our listeners are enjoying having a third voice in our discussions. I'm excited to have more people like you, Kelly, join us, because it deepens and it gives more flavor, more color to our talks. So I just appreciate that. And so I would love to hear from our listeners. Are there ways that you're finding that you can be resilient in your writing life, whether it's dealing with a physical ailment or emotional issues? So please, in the comments, if you just want to share how God is helping you to continue to write, we would love to hear it from you. And please be sure to join us for our next Soul and Story. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you for listening. This episode is over, but your writing journey continues. Visit SaraTurnquist.com to find links to help you achieve your writing dream.